first, what I want to do is just give those of you who don't know Find a Cure a bit of an introduction to us, the work we're doing, and why we're here today. So this is the team. As you can see, we're all here. We've got Flora over there dealing with the registrations right now. Mary Rose, our events officer, and Libby, our fundraising communications officer. We're quite a small team, and we're trying to basically work in the rare disease space UK-wide. So what we're trying to do tonight is to showcase some of the work that's happening in the rare disease fields in Wales, and to make new connections in the Welsh area, so thank you for coming down. We've got a range of talks that hopefully will achieve that, and give you a sense of the work that we're trying to do UK-wide for rare disease patients. So why rare diseases? Hopefully we all kind of understand this off the bat, really. We think rare diseases are a huge problem. They affect roughly less than 1 in 2,000 people, and that's about 3.5 million people in the UK. There are about 7,000 different rare genetic conditions, and obviously the real big problem in the field is that there are only 400 licensed treatments for these conditions. That leaves, well, millions of people without treatment and with little hope of treatment. What we do have, though, in the rare disease field is an exceptionally empowered patient population. We have patients who are often forced to go out for themselves, to learn and understand their condition, and in many cases educate their own clinicians. And because of that, they've got a lot of power and determination to make change for themselves, to change their own rare disease space, and hopefully begin to move towards finding their own treatments. So this is the main area that Find a Cure works in. We work to try and empower those patient groups, primarily trying to help those patient groups form and educate them, to give them the skills that they need to grow their patient group into a stronger, more robust charity, and also to find ways to interact with researchers, with clinicians, and with pharmaceutical industry. So this type of event is hopefully designed to make all of those different rare disease stakeholders meet together. Within our patient empowerment work, we do 3 or 4 major areas. We run patient group workshops, so these are currently now day-long meetings where we have a specific topic or theme which patient groups can come along to and learn about from other patient groups, from people in the industry, maybe academics, to give them the skills that they're looking for. So we recently ran one in London, and that was giving people some ideas about community fundraising. We've done things to give patients ideas about how to interact with NICE if they're working themselves on a new medicine, how to work with researchers, and these are all designed to help patients build networks of other patient groups and learn from one another. We have an online portal, so this is an online website which gives a range of different resources to help educate those patient groups and give them the skills they need to grow their community. So please do check that out yourselves if it's something of interest. We can't always have meetings in person, so we try and run webinars too, and these are generally shorter bursts of information on smaller, more restricted themes, things like developing websites, which can give people a really good insight into some of these key skills you need to develop your patient group. And again, all of those are available online as videos afterwards, so we try and make this information really accessible to patient groups. And finally, we have a peer mentoring scheme. This is all about trying to match patients up with people that they can learn from, whether those are more developed patient groups, whether those people are people in industry, to give them some insights and the skills that they need on a one-on-one basis, something that's more tailored to their specific needs. Another thing we work on in Find a Cure is this concept that rare diseases are fundamental, that rare is fundamental. What we know is that fundamental diseases, if you like, rare diseases play a vital role in research, and the way we're doing research in particular. So as I've already said, rare diseases are trailblazing the way in patient engagement. So much of the way we're beginning to do research more generally, which involves many more patient groups involved in clinical trials, many more patient groups being consulted early on in the stage of medical development, has really been blazed, a trail has been blazed by the rare disease community. So it's something that I think is making a fundamental change in the way research has been done. It's hard to get research done in rare diseases, but what you will also find is that many of the most cutting-edge technologies, things like gene editing, gene therapies, enzyme therapies, cell therapies, are pioneered in rare conditions, and they're helping to move us forward in the treatment of these rare conditions. So again, fundamental in the way we're doing science and the type of science we're doing. Fundamental in teaching us the new ways that we're going to be delivering treatments in the future. And the other thing is that these rare conditions often are outliers, if you like, and they can teach us something hugely different about the way the body works, about human biology. And in that way, learning and studying about rare diseases actually teaches us something fundamental about human biology itself, so it can benefit everybody. This is a message we're quite keen to get out there. And it really feeds into our second major aim as a charity, and that's all about trying to promote collaborations, which is what tonight's about, with the aim of developing new treatments for rare conditions. One thing we're doing in this in particular is trying to develop our own drug repurposing program, which I'll talk about again shortly. The things we do otherwise, though, are really about bringing people together. So tonight is one of our networking events, our showcase events, trying to build connections across different parts of the UK to build the rare disease community nationwide. We also run an annual scientific conference. Here you can see a group of people with their hands up for rare diseases at the conference from last year. And this is generally themed around a specific topic, and lately we've been focusing on drug repurposing. So it's a chance where we get around 100 people in the room together to discuss different topics and examples of rare research going on around the UK. And finally, we run a student essay competition. This is really a great opportunity to try and engage the medical profession, young medical students in rare diseases themselves, to make them consider rare diseases as an issue that they might face when they're treating patients later in life, or if they're moving into the research space. It's been going on for 3 years now, and the winning entry has been published in the Orphanet Journal of Rare Diseases for a couple of years. It's a really nice way to showcase some of the interesting interactions that medical students have with the rare disease community. So as I say, the project I've worked on a lot for the last couple of years has been trying to develop a drug repurposing platform for rare diseases. Drug repurposing is just really recycling. It's finding new uses for existing drugs. And we think in generic drugs in particular, there's a lot of potential for the use of these in rare conditions, but it's very, very hard for the pharmaceutical industry to work in this space because generic drugs are obviously lacking intellectual property. It's hard to secure that intellectual property, and this means it's hard for the pharmaceutical industry to recruit their investment if they invest in research into it. What we think this means is that there are projects out there in hospitals, possibly in some pharmaceutical companies, in the ideas of researchers that aren't being developed. And we want to take this forward. The reason we think repurposing is great is because we think it's a faster and cheaper way to develop drugs, and this means we can get treatments to patients more quickly. So we eliminate this de novo drug discovery step, and this is a step which is notoriously expensive and quite slow and time-consuming. Another thing is that if we're repurposing drugs that we know something about, we know something about how safe they are and their side effects in different patients. And this can give us key insights into how we use them. If we're looking at generic drugs in particular, you probably have a really long history of human use, and that's a fantastic thing because you can understand this not just in a single patient population, but often in many different patient populations, possibly in paediatric populations as well as adult populations. It gives you many more insights into the safety issues for conditions. And what this means is there's potential to have a reduced requirement for early stage clinical trials, for safety clinical trials in repurposing research. So this really can speed the process up again and definitely reduce costs. The other thing about knowing something about the drug is that you know something about the pathways of action. You know how the drug functions in the body, you know what parts of the cell it targets or what chemical pathways it targets. And that means you can hopefully be quite intelligent in the way you are finding drugs for your condition. If you know something about the biology of your condition, you can hope to find a drug that could affect that pathway. So rather than screening hundreds, thousands, millions of different compounds, you are screening a few selected compounds intelligently based on the pathways for your favourite condition. And this, again, is making things quicker and cheaper. So this is why we think it's got a huge potential for rare disease. What we want to do at Find a Cure is try and find a way to fund this differently. We're trying to fund this using social finance. So social finance is just a way of saying a type of investment which is concerned with a social outcome, a social impact, as much as the return financially to the investor. So the structure we're looking at is called a social impact bond. And the basic idea here is that we have people who invest into the social impact bond itself, a fancy bank account, essentially. What we want to do as a charity is to use those funds to fund a number of phase 2 clinical research trials in generic drug repurposing for rare diseases. So we're looking to test the efficacy, the effect of these drugs in those conditions. What we'd ideally like to do is try and select conditions that save the NHS money, or at least that cost the NHS a lot of money now, so that if we can treat them with a very low-cost drug, we can reduce their spend while improving patient health. So what this is basically doing, hopefully, is creating a win-win situation for the NHS. We are giving them a new treatment, improving patient health and well-being, and reducing their budget. And that should be very positive all round. What we look to do then is try and access a proportion of the savings that the NHS are making from the use of these low-cost generic drugs in rare conditions. If we can do that, we have money back in the social impact bond, which allows us to generate a return on investment, or at least pay the investment back to the people who supported it initially. Now, if we have enough trials here in our portfolio that are proving successful, we'd have money left over, which we could then use to plough into future generic drug repurposing, so we can fund more research and hopefully build a self-sustaining system, so we can just work around this loop without needing to seek additional investment. This could be a really unique and different way to fund this type of repurposing research in the future. The thing really to remember here is we're generating returns from the healthcare savings, not from a really high-priced drug. And it's a completely different way of looking at drug development, and we think we work really well in this difficult space. So to kind of fuel this model, to find new ideas, what we're currently doing is hosting an open call, a call to researchers, to clinicians, to patient groups, to anyone out there who might have potential ideas for repurposing research. This is a collaborative project that we're working with Cures Within Reach, who are a US repurposing charity, and a company called Helix, based in Cambridge, who are a company that focus exclusively on drug repurposing for rare diseases. And we've been working with them since the 28th of February, with the call ending at the end of May. And the idea is to find some of these different repurposing ideas that hopefully we could take into our social impact bond model, or find other ways to advance, either using Cures Within Reach's contacts to source different sources of funding for the research, or possibly using Helix's different technological approaches to like an omic way of looking at repurposing to identify more opportunities. So we think this is quite exciting, and we're open to different ideas, and we're having ideas submitted now. So if any of you out there have ideas that might fit into this call, please do get in touch, give me a shout now, and we can discuss it. The call itself is hosted on a website called Cure Accelerator, and you can find out about it there or on our website. And really, as this says, it's just a chance for everyone involved in the rare disease world to hopefully highlight the need for a way to support this type of research, a way to make sure this research can be driven forward and not just get to somewhere in the lab, but actually begin to get to patients. And we think if we're successful, this will help to deliver this new funding route to get these treatment to patients quite quickly and efficiently.